was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and today we have an exciting treat for you because a lot of us, when we hit the summer, we tend to kind of get off of our normal way of business. And I say that because if you have children, they're out of school, maybe you're a grandma like I am and the grandkids are out, so you have more time to be able to spend with them and their parents are going crazy and need you to take them. So, you might feel like, well, I don't have all the normal time that I would have in a week to work and get everything done I need to get done. So today we're going to dive into getting more done in less time. And expert Jill O'Boyle is here to share with us tips and nuggets on how you can apply this over the summer, how you can apply it during your busy seasons. Basically, just how do we shift from this kind of crazy being on that hamster wheel, and burning ourselves out to maintaining a doable, digestible week of work. I know I take every Friday off, and if I have to, I'll do projects and do catch up, but I use that day to get a lot of things done so I could keep my Saturdays open to be able to spend time with family and those types of things. And of course, Sunday with faith. So we have to design our lives just like this podcast is all about. How do you take that leap and do things a little differently and design your life so that it becomes exactly what works for you and you're not feeling that burnout? So we're going to dive into that today. But before I do, I want to thank the sponsor of today's show, Ally Spine Center. What sets their office apart from other offices is their focus and expertise in treating degenerative spinal conditions, including disc disease, bulging herniated discs, spinal stenosis, neuropathy, sciatica pain, tingling, and numbness in the hands, arms, feet, and legs, as well as severe and chronic neck pain and headaches. Say that 5 times fast. We specialize in corrective care, not just the treatment of symptoms with physical medicine modalities. In most cases, they do pre and post images. And they use that to help determine the structural improvement of the spine. I absolutely love them. They helped me heal. I know they're in Arizona, in Scottsdale, but I will tell you that they know of providers all over the United States. So if you're listening to this and you're in a different state, contact Ally Spine Center at 480-809-4700 or visit their website at allyspinecenter.com so that you can find a corrective care physician in your area. There is no need for you to be in pain. And I was in pain for a really long time. And after going to them, it's just been absolutely amazing. So super happy that they were able to sponsor today's show. So I want to thank them. And then I want to welcome our guest of today's show, Jill O'Boyle, a high performance coach, author, motivational speaker, and host of the Your Life, Your Story, Rise Up podcast. She specializes in communication, productivity, and purpose. As a time management expert, Jill helps high achieving professional women shift from working 60 hours per week and burned out to maintaining a 40-hour work week, or in my case, like a 30-hour work week, getting more done in less time and reigniting passion, freedom, and abundance in all areas of our life. Oh, that just sounds like a nice cold drink of water on a warm day, Jill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I just really believe leveraging relationships, leveraging your network, people that you've met in the past. It's why I created the Leap community for women to come together to network. I know you're part of some of those types of groups locally there in Indiana. Talk to us about why did you choose being a high performance coach? Why did you choose time management and working with women in that area? Is that part of your background, or is that where you come from? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, I would say a coach always has a story, right?
Yeah.
And so I found myself in that burned out space myself. I was a high achiever, a project manager by nature, a party planner by nature. If there was a party to be planned, the friends called Jill O'Boyle. I would get it done. And I loved it. It was a passion. And so I found myself in the project management corporate world. Loved it. Actually, when I found my last recent corporate job, I thought, this is it. I really found my niche between party planning and corporate planning and marketing and communications and all of it coming together. And so for that season of my life, I was like, this is it. I'm really good at it. And I always want to tell people to be cautious of what you're really good at, because sometimes that's not always aligned with like truly your purpose and your drive and your passion. But for a season of my life, I loved it and I excelled and I achieved many things in that career. And as a high achiever, if you relate to the Enneagram 3, through that, I realized I am a perfectionist a little bit. And so those awards and accolades and getting promoted was like, oh, this means like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Even though that meant I was working 70, 80 hours a week, completely burned out, not with my family, checking out of my faith, not going to church anymore, because who has time to do that when you're working 80 hours? So I kind of found myself in a rock bottom moment of my life. And so when you say, how did you become a high performance coach? It was honestly through reflecting back on my career, realizing that, I was really burned out, but through that burnout, I was still getting promoted. I was still achieving. I was still doing all the things. And I really started looking at what are my natural God-given gifts that I have? What are the things, what's always keeping me kind of stuck and burned out? And why am I being burned out, but yet still achieving all the things? And so I have this natural gift of, project management is in my wheelhouse. So very, very in tune with detailed organizations, productivity, always achieving and getting things done. And then even though I was burned out, I was still getting everything done. And I thought, I have some natural gifts. And my one gift is definitely the gift of discernment, which is using my intuitive gift. I found myself having that revolving door all the time at the office. And I love to be a contributor. I love to help people, suffer from people pleasing as well. But I have that really good gift of intuition. And I leaned into that and said, a lot of people come to me all the time and they're like, Jill, can I bother you for 1 minute? You always give sound advice. Can I ask you this? Can I ask you this? So I leaned into that. And I'm like, I'm a coach by natural. Like I've been a coach my entire life, just didn't realize it in that term. Right. So I loved being a manager for that reason. I love to help people. And so it was just through my struggles, I kind of woken up, found my purpose in life. And now I know this is my purpose, my passion, my love of just helping women to truly reach their full potential, to help them unsubscribe from this hustle burnout mentality. And what are the gifts that you're using in your role? And are they aligned with really what you're doing? Between like your natural and your gifts that you already have, is that what you're doing in your work? And if not, is that why you're being a little bit burned out?
Yeah. It sounded like you still are and were a trusted advisor. You must have been very approachable and people felt comforted in your space that you created for them to ask the question and share to get that advice. And I'm wondering how many of our listeners out there feel maybe if they're at a corporate job or, if people are coming to them on a regular basis, just like Jill, pay attention to that. Because that also could lead to another opportunity for you in your life. You wrote a book about kind of the hardships during that really downtime. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the book and why you decided to put those experiences into print?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I knew at a young age I would love to write a book. I knew at a young age I would be a speaker. And so it's funny, I talk about intuition. My intuition was very strong growing up. But through life, the gifts that God has given us, the gifts that we have through life, you sometimes forget what naturally comes to you. And that's where I found myself, that I was going through the motions of life. I wasn't living my life. And through my struggles, I learned, wow, this is really a message that I want to share. And so I wrote the book. I'm a co-author in the book, Intuitive Goddess. And of course, the title jumped out. I'm like, yep, Intuitive Goddess. That's me from childhood. I was always intuitive. And I whatever brought Jill joy, Jill did. I just really listened to that gift that I had. And that led me so far in life. And then when I reached about it was probably about age 30, I started really diminishing that gift and thinking, you know what? I just got lucky. Jill, really, you just got lucky. No, I didn't get lucky. I was listening to my body. And what I found is I got to the age 30 and society and the world kind of got in my head a little bit, where I thought, this is it. This is what life is. You just work hard, you do more, you be more. I became a mom and I thought, okay, I'm a mom now, I'm a wife. This is my career. And this is what you should do, right? That word should, anytime that comes up, watch out, check yourself. And so I fell into that pattern, and that didn't sit well at all. But I was like, yeah, I guess this is it. And because of that inner critic, that little voice that's telling you that you're not good enough, this is all you're going to amount to, I believed it. I believed the lie. And by believing that lie, that spun me into a very dark valley of shame, of lies, of remorse and guilt, where every day I just thought my self-worth is tied to my career. So if I'm not achieving, again, it goes back to that perfectionism. If I'm not achieving, then I'm not worthy of anything. And man, that really took my hand and led me down a dark valley, where I then was trying to strive for all the things and thinking, gosh, if I could just get here, then I would have made it, right? Striving for that perfect world, which nothing is perfect, right? And you are already perfect. You are a child of the Most High God. I am 100% a firm believer in my faith. So what happened is I started to continue to just seek more things with work. I put all my effort into my work, completely burned myself out. There was things going on, of course, in my marriage, in my household, but I didn't want to deal with that, right? It was just one more thing. So instead of openly communicating, which is a natural gift I have, I muted my voice. I didn't speak up for the things that I needed to be communicating. And instead I would just reach for that glass of wine, and that one glass would turn into 2, turn into 3, usually a bottle a night. And I found myself just numbing all my emotions. And then the next thing, it led to a complete inappropriate relationship. Getting awarded a $3 million project found me in the office even later, attaching myself to a coworker, creating this very inappropriate relationship. Yeah. To the point that I stood in front of the mirror and I was like, what am I doing? Who are you? I couldn't even recognize the woman staring back at her. And so I'm caught up in this middle of an affair. I'm completely broken in all pieces of my life. Yeah. And I was like, this is not Jill. I don't even know how I got here. And so I felt a strong pull during that season of my life to finally find stillness in my life again, to unsubscribe from the hustle, to get back to truly finding myself again. And it was in those moments of finally stillness, wouldn't you know, I felt the presence of God over me. I started to get back in touch with that intuitive gift that I have, that intuition of really knowing, what the right voice to listen to is. And I heard very loud and clear, I want you to share this story. I want you to share this story on stages. I want you to share this story to other women. And so in small doses, I had women who didn't know really me from back then. Because again, we're talking like 4 years ago, this had all happened. So as women started coming, I started opening up to them and they're like, wow, I would have never known. I'm like, well, of course you didn't. We don't put our dirty laundry out there on social media and everywhere.
Yeah.
And so through that, I was like, I heard louder, bigger, Jill, bigger, like, and that's how I decided. I was like, okay, I'm going to share a very vulnerable, personal story in a book. I'm going to speak on stages and I'm going to coach women to realize you are so much more capable than you imagine. Your story is your history, is your story. It's your superpower. Like everything in your life happens for a reason. And so many times we get stuck in the battle, we get stuck in the hardships and we spiral and we think, okay, I guess, that's it for me. Well, that's not that. Honestly, if there's fear there, like, there was some resistance for sure. I was like, okay, God, really? Like, this is pretty personal stuff to really be sharing. But if you can step out of that and really realize, get out of that comfort zone, like he's leading you somewhere bigger than you can imagine, like take the leap.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good. And so I trusted, I leaned it into it, had the opportunity. You talk about, Colleen, about your network.
Yeah.
Your
network is your network.
What am I trying to say? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it is. It's like at a networking event, right? Random opportunity shows up where a lady's like, if you want to share your story, if you want to do this, there's this, I know this great lady. She does book releases with women that went through transformation and healing. I'm like, what is the odds? Right? I believe nothing happens by coincidence. So leaned into that, wrote a book, became best-selling on Amazon. And I love it. I love sharing the story because my purpose in life is to contribute to others. Like I've known that I'm a people pleaser. I love to help people. And so by sharing my story, it's helping others realize they're not alone.
Yeah.
And giving them the help to be you.
Where do we find that book? What is the name of that book that you wrote?
Yeah. So it's Intuitive Goddess. And you can find it on jillaboyle.com. There's a link right there to buy it or on Amazon. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. It's a great read. So anyone who wants to get that book, I think the message that you're sharing to women out there that are burnt out, that are overworked, that are doing this, even entrepreneurs as well as women in corporate that are working 60, 70 hours and they just feel like they don't even know how to slow down.
No.
And then one thing spirals to the next thing that spirals to the next thing. And your story is allowing them to give themselves permission to slow down, because a high performer really, it's in their DNA. They struggle with slowing down. I mean, it's the demise of mind, right? So because you just hit the ground going as an entrepreneur and then you just start creating a job again and boom, 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 the hours just start adding up. And that's a big, huge pitfall for a lot of women or men moving away from corporate into the entrepreneurship, is they just create themselves a job. They either do two things.
Mm-hmm.
They either go the opposite direction and they just become super lazy and they pretty much are just unemployed and doing a side gig, right? Or like you and I, we hit the ground running when we became entrepreneurs and just started building. And then before you know it, you're working longer hours and putting more into it. And there's this sense of, why do I have to continue building? Why can't I just be content with kind of the status quo? And we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we're trying to prove to ourselves or others, and I believe faith has a lot to do with getting more done in less time and utilizing the power of God and the power of faith, because where he guides, he provides, right?
Yes, he does.
And how are you shifting the thoughts for women when they're coming to you saying like, I am that burned out, overworked female. I feel like I can't be a good mom and be good at my career. And the problem is society will tell you you can't do all of it.
Right.
When we can, it's just by priority. I can be a great grandma. That doesn't mean I have to babysit my grandkids Monday through Friday all day. And I know that there are grandmas out there that feel like, well, I became a grandma, so now my responsibility is to watch the grandkids. And it's like, it's not really. You know, you have an identity. What do you want to do in life? And I think that's crazy. I remember going on a trip to Grenada, and he said, my sister isn't coming to visit me on my sailboat, which is where we were, because she's a grandma and babysits the kids every day. And I was like, she can't take a week off to come down and see her brother in this beautiful country and hang out. And he was like, no, she won't. And I just thought her last years, like the second half of her life as a female that's now independent of, young children, she has her whole life ahead of her. And yet, but that's what lights her up, and that's what she wants to do. So we also have to respect what other people want to do with their lives, right? Like, I think being a Starbucks barista could be really great. I'm just saying, making coffee every day.
I love coffee and talking to people
about that. Right?
Yeah, win-win.
I know. And I sometimes think, if I lived in a tiny little place, maybe I would just be a Starbucks barista because I love having conversations, and
Colleen, you would be
my jam.
You would be my favorite Starbucks barista. Just saying. You would light everybody's day up.
Yeah.
Like on their way to their dreaded job. You would just give them like that mojo of just inspiration.
Right. I loved serving, being a server. And I did that as a second job in a marriage. I had the same thing happen that Jill. It was debt, and then it was more work, and then more debt. And then I needed to get more jobs. So I'm working a full-time career. Plus I'm working part-time as a server. And I loved serving, but I was serving every night, all weekend long. I didn't get to, hang out with my kids on the weekend. They were young as I was raising them. And what do you think happened? Some other guy was there. And for some reason that caught my eye, and same thing happened, except mine resulted in a divorce. And then it all had to happen the way it happened for me to find my soulmate I'm with today. For sure. But I had young children, and I spun out of control, and I really just didn't know what I wanted anymore. And it felt like I couldn't find my way back. You kind of feel like in this dark place, I guess.
Definitely.
And if you're not in Jesus's light, you're in a dark place.
You are
sometimes.
Yes,
I feel. And so I was just like you. And so when women are spun out of control like that, they cannot even really perceive what they need to do, because if they could figure it out, they would do it. But having the guidance of you to assist them, high performers usually can't see. Sometimes they're just so intense and in it, right? Yeah. So what are some of the tips that help them kind of pause and figure out, like, where do I have to go from here? Because things are all repairable. You can change things around on a dime. You can design that life. How do you help them design that life?
Yes. I love when I get clients, because they are usually just like me. So I can relate to them when they say, I am so burned out. I'm so tired, Jill. I can't even think. I don't even know. Like when I ask them, like, what do you want to do? What do you do for fun? And they look at me like, what is fun? I have no idea what you're talking about. Are we supposed to be having fun in life? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Let's start there. But I get it, because I was just like that. Like you said, these high achievers are just always, they're striving, they're busy, they're producing machines. And I was the exact same way. And then I laugh when I look at it now, because I was doing the same thing. I'm like, okay, God, you know that I'm not supposed to be here, like blaming, right? I'm not supposed to be in this environment, especially with the guy that about cost my marriage. Like, what are you doing? Why can't I, I was applying for every other project management, event management, high hustling job. And everyone, third round, they would just go quiet, or, oh, we just went a different direction. And I'm like, okay, I am more than qualified. I'm actually going to take a pay cut. Like, why am I not getting these opportunities? Right.
God was closing doors on you.
Oh, yes,
he works
was.
through other people really, really well.
He does.
Yeah.
And he works through stillness.
Yeah.
And so here I was just hustling and just like, okay, I'm really getting mad at you. Like, this is what is not going on. And it was finally, Colleen, when I realized that it starts with me. Like, I have to start changing some habits. And so that's what I really help my clients do, is we have to start changing your mindset, rewiring your thinking, getting back into healthier habits. Right. And so it was finally in the stillness of creating a morning routine. And when I first say that to my clients who are, they're working crazy hours, they're like, I don't have
my morning routine is alarm, shower,
check the
grab
emails,
coffee or whatever, and then off to work or whatever. That's like the day. Crazy.
That's it. And so they look at me with like blind eyes, like, you're crazy. I'm not going to set my alarm. And I'm like, you are going, I'm not a morning person. Well, that's because you're telling yourself you're not a morning person. So again, habits change, Yeah. So creating that morning routine was a game changer for me. It's finally when I heard God say, do you see? If you would just sit down, child, I'll show you the way. But you're too busy trying to control it your way.
Ooh.
I was like, ooh,
that's a good point. We get in our brains and we think we're smarter and we can do more and we have all the answers. But it's proven, even in science, that neural pathways are created. New neural pathways are created through stillness and meditation. Yeah. Like, it's science. It's pretty easy. Then we all know, if you want to receive an answer to a prayer, you've got to listen for the answer, be open for the answer, not be in action for the answer.
Exactly. Yeah. I have an acronym WAIT that I use all the time because it says, why am I talking? Because I love to talk. So I have to
cute.
Remind myself that, Jill, you just need to shut up and you just need to listen. And it's hard. Believe me, I'm an extrovert. But so that's like the one area where I really like help them to just create those habits. And I said, I promise you will make that time up. That morning time is going to help you so much in your day, because what's going to happen by not checking your emails when you get up, by not checking your calendar, by not getting on social media and filling your mind with a bunch of anxiety and comparison, you're going to have literally 30 minutes to journal, to ask God, to pray, to meditate. And what you're going to find is in those 30 minutes, it's going to give you more clarity, more guidance. You're going to be more productive when you get into the office. I mean, so when I first started this, I was not used to doing this. So I'm like, okay, what do I need? Like a script of what I need to do. And I just started really saying, what are my main top 3 priorities that I have to get done today? And I would write those down. And what am I grateful for? I mean, people hear that and they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. It really does. If you can write down what you are grateful for and write it, there is a science behind writing, and seeing it. Like, you start to reflect that when you write the things that you're grateful for, you'll start receiving more. You'll start feeling more joy in your life.
Well, you believe those things that you're grateful for. And I thought being grateful was saying thank you. And of course, I'm grateful for my life until I read Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic. It's 28 days of straight gratitude. And she teaches you a different level of gratitude than you've ever had in your life before. Changed my life.
Oh, and
now I see gratitude differently, because it's ingrained in you as something you truly feel in every fiber of your being, as being grateful for that. And sometimes you are just so focused on making more money, you never, ever say how grateful you are for the money you have today.
Yes.
So different,
Yes.
different to have gratitude versus being thankful for something.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very big difference. And I will tell every listener out there, Jill's onto something when she talks about gratitude and writing it every day, because it will change your life. Gratitude at that level will change your life. Like attracts like.
It does.
The way it works.
It is so true. It is so true. So yeah, there's so many other tools. I mean, one of the biggest things too, that was an eye-opening for me is understanding and asking my clients, like, what matters most in your life? What are your top 5 priorities? And so putting those down, right? And I said, okay, well, this is your number one. So if you would have asked me that back in 2017, I would have told you that my number one priority was my family. Y'all heard the story.
Yeah, that's what you said, but your actions didn't support what you said. But that's kind of that outward facing social media, outside of your house, doors closed. Like, of course, my family is my number one priority.
Right.
And then everyone's like, Jill's pulling in at like 9:30 at night every night at her house, and her husband's putting the kids to bed, and she's back out again at 6 a.m. And she says her kids and family is her number one priority, but I haven't seen her at a soccer game. I haven't seen her at a baseball game. She just work.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened, but
it's exactly what happened.
Don't align. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so we look at that and then we say, okay. And I know deep down, that's really, I mean, I do love my family. And I think some of my clients are the same way. So I said, okay, what are the habits that need to change to make that statement true? Right. So then we start looking at that. So those are the things that I started working and finding, like, when you actually figure out what matters most, what are your top priorities that you need to get done? Like, honestly, it is, these are aligned with your natural gifts. They bring value to what you're doing. They're important, right? Because we all love to stay in that urgent zone of just doing fires all day. Well, you'll be burned out if you stay in that zone. And so we start new habits that make those statements true. And the one was creating the hard stop, getting in the habit of pre-deciding how my day was going to go, learning how to delegate effectively. So these are all the things that I coach on that help them to actually work less, get more done, be more productive in their life, and live the life that they truly want to live.
It's so true. I think there's a lot of things that we do that are just wasted time, but we think it's what we have to do. So many entrepreneurs I meet, the badge of busy, like, I got to be busy. If I'm busy, then I'm doing something in my business. And half the time they're like, I can't add another thing. And I'm like, are you making all the money you want to be making right now? They're like, not even close. I'm like, then what are your actions that you're doing that aren't aligning to that? Because I feel like you might be wasting time, and you're kind of saying the same thing, but in a different realm, which is awareness first. I can't keep doing this, right? The second thing is I'm not happy. And the third thing is I want to do something about it, right? Everyone has to want to take action. They just don't know what to do. So working with you, you clearly help them put some clarity to what's going on in their life so they can understand why they're spun out, so they can understand what steps they need to do to create those habits like you talked about. I mean, that's really awesome that you help them do that. Now, I know most of the people listening, they know where to find your book. What was the name of your podcast again?
Your Life, Your Story, Rise Up.
Okay. So they can find that on all podcast outlets. Is that correct?
All podcasts.
Okay, great. So go like and subscribe and follow Jill O'Boyle at Your Life, Your Story, Rise Up. Get that podcast. She's got some great guests and gives some great advice. Where else can they find you, Jill? Where would be the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, easiest is on LinkedIn. I'm active on there at Jill O'Boyle, or just go to my website, jilloboyle.com. You can find all my social handles there on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. So getting more done in less time has a lot of different shades to it. And so if you're one of those people that are like, I have to do more to get more done, it doesn't work that way. It's actually about doing less. It's prioritizing, getting clarity, and putting attention behind what you're doing, and doing the things that move the needle in your life in the areas that you want them moved. You want a better relationship? Move the needle on the relationship. right? You want
Yep,
a healthier family, move the needle on health with your family. These are things you have to be intentional about. I always tell everyone, it's like if you're going to get married and you set a date to get married, you will work backwards and do all the tasks that need to be done to make sure it's the best day of your life. And the wedding dress will be ready. The food will be ready. The decorations will be ready. The tuxes, like everything will be ready by the time you get to that day. Why don't we exercise that in our lives, in our every area of our lives, and kind of create that clarity? Just what Jill's saying. We do it for other things, but we don't do it for the things that matter the most in our lives. So I'm so thankful that God chose you, which I can assume that you're out of a job pretty quickly once God takes over and they lean back into faith, and you're like, thanks God for, taking all my clients from me. Once they get to the point where they're back in the light and they're listening and they're moving along, but they couldn't get jump started into this space without you, because they need a trusted guide. And you already said you were that and are that, because naturally people come to you because of the space you create for them. So that's incredible. Thank you, Jill, for being a guest.
Yes. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of good nuggets.
Always fun with you.
Well, no one's really said I'm a fun person. I wouldn't say. My husband will be like, oh, so you can tell jokes and you do have humor, because I'm so serious all the time. I'm like, yes, I'm a fun person. Yes. But yeah, so I've had to learn, honestly, it was something that doesn't come natural to me. I had to learn how to relax and have fun and chill out a little bit, because I am so intense. So I've had to learn how to do that. And it's created a better, happier life for myself. And I don't want to die tomorrow with all these regrets of what I didn't do. So I literally live my life like if tomorrow was the last one. Am I good with God? Am I good with my relationships and my family? And if I'm not, I work on them now. I don't wait until later.
Do not wait. That is the best. That's the best advice, honestly.
Yeah.
Like live your life. I love that. Yes. Do not wait.
Well, thank you, Jill. And I just want to remind, all of you, as I do every single episode, and sometimes this hits home for you, maybe, and sometimes it doesn't, but you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. This is your time. So how long are you going to wait to finally design that life the way you want it, or the money you want to make, or the relationship you want to have, or the family connections that you want to have? And the freedoms, whatever that looks like for you in your life, don't wait. Focus on getting more done intentionally with less time, meaning you don't have to, be the hustle. No, the hustle's over. That's like the 70s, right? Do the hustle. It's like the 70s. It's not that way anymore, right? So there is a way for you to have happiness in all these areas without running around like a chicken with your head cut off. I promise, because Jill's done it. I've done it. Thousands and thousands of women and men that we know have done it, and you can do it too. So this is a great episode. And if you missed any of it, go back and listen to it again, because it was absolutely phenomenal. Jill, thank you so much again for being with us. And make sure that you reach out to Jill on LinkedIn at Jill O'Boyle, or go subscribe to her podcast at Your Life, Your Story, Rise Up. And again, go to JillO'Boyle.com and you can find her book. It's really, really a phenomenal book if you love to read about other people's stories, their struggles, and what they went through. It's just immersing yourself into something else, and that usually automatically gives you permission to do the same. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.